much for joining us today on Feelin' Good, sponsored by Warren County Community Services. I'm your host, Shelly Abrams, and today I am delighted to introduce, or probably not introduce, feature a very good friend of mine for years and years and years. And many of you, I believe, know Esther Banta Larson. And she is our guest today. And I am so delighted that Esther is here with us on Feelin' Good. Thanks so much for joining us today, Esther.
I really appreciate you inviting me, Shelly. We haven't really gotten together for a long, long time, so I'm glad to catch up with you.
I know. I'm delighted. Well, I have to say this. In putting together a little outline of our program today, I thought it would be interesting in the fact that this month is Women's History Month. And I thought, what better person to chat with about women's history locally and on a personal family level than Esther Larson. And why would I say that? I would say that because both of us, having been teachers in the past, we brought a few items today to share with you, our audience. And in putting the show together, we were emailing back and forth. And I happened to mention, and I mentioned this on last month's show, that I had written a book this past year during the pandemic. And this is a book about my life. So I had posted this on the website, on Facebook. And interestingly enough, Esther said, "Oh, I did that as well."
I did.
So I thought, wouldn't that be great to have a fellow author of your story, my story, and StoryWorth together today. So that's really kind of how this whole conversation got started. So let's share with our audience a little bit about your background, and we'll go from there.
Okay, how far back?
I would like to hear and see some of the items that you brought today show that your family has lived here in the Lebanon area. And
Yes.
For how many years?
Well, the land that I'm living on was originally part of my grandparents' farm. And the farm goes back to the 1700s. In fact, I have the original deed from the farm. I don't know, that's probably hard to see.
And it looks like it's handwritten.
It is handwritten, and the date on it is 1798. So it became the possession of Daniel Banta in 1798, and has been in the Banta name for that whole time.
And do you know roughly the acreage?
I think it started out like, with my grandparents' part, over close to 100 acres.
Okay.
And then one of his brothers owned the farm across the road, which at one point was Banta Orchards.
Oh.
And I think that was another around 100 acres.
Okay.
And then my uncle also lived on part of the farm. I think that was around 80 acres. Okay. So it was quite a few acres at the time.
Right.
And it's not in acres on here, so I couldn't interpret.
So at that time, the family farmed the land, or did other people come and farm the land?
But in the 1700s, I don't know.
But just the idea that you have the original
Yeah. Now, my
Paperwork.
grandparents farmed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I remember going. In fact, that was one of the stories in the book that I would walk with Grandpa Banta. It was Albert Banta, Albert in Georgia.
Okay.
And I would walk back the lane with them and bring the cows in and go out when they were milking the cows, and he would be squirting the milk into the pan for the cats, and he tried to teach me how to milk. I'm not a farmer. So I never caught on to that.
Oh, okay.
But it was fun.
Oh, very good.
Great memories for it.
So through the years then, were different houses built on the property and so on?
Well, I think my parents were the first ones that had more of a newer home built, and I was in the 1960s.
Okay.
And then when we moved back here from Baltimore, and finally decided we wanted to move back in Lebanon, so I would be the ones getting my kids on and off the bus and not my husband.
Right.
We talked to Mom and Dad, and they said, we'll give you 5 acres. So we said, thank you very much.
Right.
Built a house, which
Right.
is probably a football field away from their home.
Okay.
And then a few years later, after Chad got married, our son got married, they came to us and said, we'd really like to build out here. So we split our land, and Chad built behind us, and currently my daughter Nicole is living in my parents' house next door, so with the Larson compound.
Isn't that great? Yeah. Oh, that is so great. Now, I heard something that kind of made me want to ask you. What took you to Baltimore?
Okay, after we got out of college.
And you and Jim met in?
No, we went to school, we both went to school in Lebanon.
Oh, okay, okay.
My parents taught in Lebanon. Jim's dad was a butcher for Kroger's.
Okay.
His mom was a secretary. And then she went back after his dad passed away, and she also became a teacher. So Baltimore recruited while we were at Ohio State,
Okay.
and we were offered jobs there and lived in Baltimore County out there for 5 years.
Oh, I never knew that. Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. But then you both were in education from the start?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim taught chemistry and coached and assistant athletic director, and I started out there in 3rd grade and then kindergarten.
Okay.
We came back here and I subbed until mid-year, started teaching 5th grade in the middle of the year. The following year I was offered a junior high position. Am I nuts? But I loved it. They were great, and stayed in Lebanon then for 32 years.
And now you serve, I was just reading up on your bio. This is your 4th term on
Yes.
the Board of Education for the city
yeah,
of
I'm in my
Lebanon?
14th,
for the Lebanon
started
City
15th
Schools?
year, yeah.
Okay, all right, very good.
I also serve on the Warren County Career Board.
Oh, very good.
But someone from each of the districts that feed into the
Right.
Career Center
Right.
also serves on the board there. And I've thoroughly enjoyed that up there also.
Isn't it just amazing the changes throughout education? Because, well, for instance, I remember when my boys are similar in age to Chad and Nicole, and when you had the boys when they were little, I mean, I still have those pictures. I have like a digital photo frame, that I just let the pictures roll.
Yeah.
And I have it on a table where all of a sudden, in fact, this morning when I was getting ready, I thought, oh, there's Zach's birthday in Esther's classroom.
Oh
I said,
my
how
gosh.
appropriate that would come up. And then I saw all the kids.
That was kindergarten, right?
Kindergarten, yes. And I thought, oh my, how many years ago that has been. That
Just
we
a
had
few.
that connection. That we had that connection. Well, I referred to women's history, and I've been doing a little research on. Well, just this week, the women's soccer team had been, lobbying for equal pay, and they were awarded equal pay to the men's soccer league.
And they should be.
And they should be. And yet, look at the years. I know whenever I study women's history, I think my grandmother was not able to, I can't imagine my grandmother not being able to vote, because my mother was so into, I mean, she voted. She never missed voting.
Oh, my parents didn't either. That was just something that is ingrained in me, that is a privilege that we don't give up. And right. I haven't missed an election for voting.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So when I think of how far even the women's history has evolved, even though it seems like we both say it's about time, it's good to see that we can pass that on to daughters, granddaughters, great-granddaughters, and so forth. And so going back to that, what was your mother? I remember your mom and dad so well, because they would.
I've got a picture of them.
Oh,
So,
well,
let's
see.
First of all, this book, because you were talking about the bandas.
Yes.
And I didn't even know this book existed, because I guess my brother had it.
Okay.
And my brother passed a few years ago. But and it's a book about the banda genealogy, and this was written in 1893, starting when they came over from the Netherlands.
Oh.
And it's not especially exciting reading, because it is genealogy, but to know that the ones that fought in the Revolutionary War and fought in the Civil War, and it's like, oh my goodness, just that history there that, in my few minutes here and there I can read it, but not to sit down for clear through it.
And yet, look how, as you're looking for those photos, I was I'm getting myself ready to watch Outlander. I don't know if you've watched that
No.
series. I would really recommend it. It's time travel, but it incorporates real history with, it's fiction, nonfiction, and it's very interesting. So the next season is starting the second week, I think, in March. So I've been watching some of the former episodes just to kind of refresh. And then this week, Abraham Lincoln. Did you happen to watch Abraham Lincoln's series? Was on the History Channel, and Doris Kearns Goodwin produced this account of Abraham Lincoln, which was so interesting. But I'm a history person anyway, so I love that. But as you say, you wouldn't think sitting down with a book about genealogy would necessarily be the type of reading that would hold your attention very long. And yet, isn't it interesting how you find out like one fact and it kind of leads you, like I've done this with my family, those fan charts, and one, leads to another, to another.
Yes.
And, like you say, you go back to the Netherlands, which I find is very, very interesting. So let's see your parents. Let's see a picture of your parents.
And Mom and Dad both taught in the district.
Yes.
Mom taught third grade in reading. Dad taught science, chemistry, and he also served on the school board. It's the administration building now, but when that opened as a high school, he was on the school board at that time.
I remember them always being at the football games and never missing, and always working the gates and so on and so forth.
It was ingrained in me.
Yes, yes.
And
indeed.
I just found out recently that Dad's father also had served on the school board. So I'm the third generation for that.
That's
And I did not know that.
Here in Lebanon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just watched the current Lebanon superintendent on the Channel 6 Onward Lebanon program. I just watched it yesterday, and they were talking about the Spanish immersion program that they've been piloting.
They'll be adding it for 5th grade next year.
And I was just taken in by the idea of starting at, is it K through?
First grade. They
First
go into
grade.
first grade.
Okay, first grade. And that they work with Spanish immersion
Yes.
with science and math.
It's amazing. The first year they had it, about mid-year, they had a group of the children come into the board meeting, and they sat on the floor and did little lessons. And their Spanish at that point was incredible. It was so great to watch them.
And they
So
just soak it up.
when they're little,
Right.
absolutely, it's so much easier for them.
Right, right, right. Well, I was telling Kyle, my oldest son, last night, I told him we were going to be chatting today, and he took all 4 years in high school of Spanish. And I said, the Spanish immersion, they're starting, at first grade level now. So he found that very interesting, to think that would be the case. So there are so many things we could be talking about, but let's stay on your family history and the connection to Lebanon and Warren County.
Okay.
So, so as you get more involved with the history of Lebanon and Warren County, what are some of the stories or key times that you recall when you knew that you would be a teacher? When you, well, let's start with that.
Okay. Well, first of all, when I was younger, there's no way I'll ever be a teacher. I was always going to be a nurse.
Okay.
And then in junior high, we moved in with my maternal grandmother, Ora Davidson, who was also a teacher.
Oh.
And she was bedfast with cancer. And just being with her and trying to help her and the suffering, I thought, I can't do this. And then I started going over to Mom's classroom because junior high was out earlier. So I'd go over there and help in her room and paint pictures on their windows and stuff. And I thought, I think I really like this. So from then on, it was probably junior high that I changed my mind. And
Did any of those stories become included in your story?
And becoming a teacher?
Book? Do you remember?
Not directly.
Okay.
Not on like that process wasn't in there.
Okay. Okay. Well, tell our audience a little bit. I really wanted to encourage folks to consider doing this. Because and I've got this other magazine that I'm recommending too, Reminisce magazine. Every month I get this, and it features a certain year. And this was this current edition, and I think the year was 1956. And they they have people send in articles, photos, and so forth that deal with that particular year. And it's amazing just to see how interesting the stories are that people share. So when you started your book, here, let's see it again, because we both you can design your own cover. When you started your book, what do you remember? What your first questions were, or what got you started? Was it a gift?
It was a gift.
Okay.
I guess I started thinking about with my own parents. There were so many questions that I wish I would have asked them.
Yes.
So many things that I wanted to know, like when did they first start dating? Where was their honeymoon? Did they even take one? Where'd they live right after they got married? And it's funny because while I'm digging through these pictures, I found my dad's diary.
Oh.
For the year that he started dating Mom.
Oh.
And I thought, let me read this. But there were lots of gaps in there. But he had like the date of the first date. And he'd come back from Ohio State, pick Mom up at Wilmington College, spend the evening together, and he'd go back to Ohio State. And but when he had gone to my grandfather and asked for marriage, and then when he was giving her the ring, I was fascinated. And then the rest of the pages were blank, and I thought it's like an unfinished book. I want the rest.
Right.
So I guess even before that, I was thinking, what would my children be asking me? What would they want to know?
Uh-huh.
And then through Facebook, I saw Storyworth advertised, and some things in Facebook, I'm going,
Right.
is this going to be something good? But I decided to take the risk, and then the questions started coming in each week. Sometimes I got a little behind on answering them, but it was at my pace.
Right.
So each week I completed the question. If I didn't like the question, there were others to choose from, which sometimes I did that. And I wanted to surprise my children and grandchildren for Christmas. So Christmas morning, I had each one wrapped separately and said, don't open it. You all have to open it at the same time. And they were, oh my gosh, Mom, how long did that take? I said, all year. And, some of them, they open something and I look over and there's, oh, okay. And they put it aside, open the next gift. So I think they've really enjoyed it.
Well, I found that because
you took time to put pictures.
Well,
I
put. Well, I'll show you. For instance, you can take pictures and have them. You send it, you attach it to whatever story. And this is when I recently visited with Miami University, the ILR program, up at the Bicycle Museum of America. And I was hunting for the bicycle, the model of the bicycle that my mother had named when these were made in Shelby. Shelby made bicycles. And this whole display was about Shelby bicycles. And so I included this because she was like 12 when she won this national naming contest. And so I've been on a research hunt. They, in the whole article about awarding her the first place, they never mentioned the name of the bicycle. So we've been researching through the year. It was 1939, I think it was, and so anyway, I've included pictures as well, and Casey, my youngest, and his wife Lauren purchased the subscription for me for Christmas, and so all last year, every Monday morning, I'd open up my Facebook, and there it would be. The question of the week, and like you said, you could pick another question if you didn't care for it. Usually I went ahead with it because it kind of spurred you on.
Just a couple of questions, to me, they were too similar to something I'd already answered. So I that's when I changed. But I usually did the one they had.
Well, how far back, and maybe you remember this, how far back can you remember? Would you say, age-wise?
Well, I guess I was pretty little when I would go with Grandpa out to get the cows.
Okay.
And then they would do the butchering. I wasn't allowed in the barn for the butchering part. But when they were packaging the meat and remembering that part. And so I do remember going to kindergarten. Kindergarten at that time in Lebanon was all day.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I failed nap time.
You failed nap time because
I wanted to sit up. They're not laying down. I failed.
Did you have resting rugs? We had resting.
Yes.
They were rag rugs that you bought.
Yes, I had to
and they were resting
roll them
rugs.
all up.
And you had to stay on your rug. That was part of the deal. Now ours was only half day, but it wasn't required at the time. I was in kindergarten in 1956.
And Mrs. Ivans.
Okay.
She was delightful. And then I had Jane Cantoni for first grade.
You did?
You know Jane?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not even
And that was in
realize
the Academy building.
Really? Yeah. Interesting. So you went to school in the Academy building.
For first grade.
For first grade.
Second grade, it was back over at the Pleasant Street School,
Okay.
where the park is over there now by
Right.
the
Right.
post office.
Right. Yeah.
I was there for third grade, and then fourth grade we went over to Barry.
Okay.
That they'd moved the fourth from fourth on up over there.
Okay. Okay.
So
So, but you never, well, I guess Dunleavy and Louisa Wright and so forth were not built
No.
until you started teaching.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think Holbrook was 1963. It might have been.
Okay.
I remember Mom transferring over there to teach,
Uh-huh.
and so and then for me to end up teaching there also, that was
Full circle.
ironic.
Right.
Yeah.
And didn't you just have a group meeting? You made a call to anyone who had taught there?
I
For
did.
a picture?
Yeah, since the building's going to be demolished,
Right, right.
which was part of the plan when we built the new schools.
Uh-huh.
So I just put it out on Facebook. Hey, let's get a picture together before the building's no longer here.
Right.
And we had it was one of the coldest days all winter, but we had a great turnout. It didn't stay very long because it was so cold,
Sure.
but it was fun to get everybody together again.
Oh, that is so great. Oh, just think of those stories. I mean, if you did just a book about Holbrook,
Absolutely, yeah.
all
that
the
would be fun.
stories that could happen. So anyway, once again, we could talk about this, that, and the other thing. Let's go on from teaching. What were some of the notable changes that you can recall? Did you first start teaching at Holbrook? Was that your first school? I mean, here in Lebanon.
No, I started teaching at the junior high.
Oh, you did. Okay. Okay.
But one of the notable between kindergarten, from when I taught kindergarten in Baltimore,
Okay.
and it started as it was new public kindergarten out there. Before then, it was all private kindergarten.
Right.
And then when we started out there in the classroom, I wasn't even allowed to put up the ABCs. That it was supposed to be play and socializing. Yet by the end of the year, I was supposed to have them know their ABCs, but didn't have the sounds. It was more of a preschool.
Okay.
And that was the atmosphere then.
Okay.
Where now, by the end of kindergarten, they're reading pretty fluently. They're doing math problems. So the expectations for the children today, compared to when I first started teaching, has just been monumental.
And don't you think, some people might say, well, is that too much information too quickly? But my own grandchildren, preschool and kindergarten, then kindergarten, and so on. I think they loved learning they just couldn't learn enough. They wanted to know more.
And I think you're right, but I still think they need time to play.
Oh, yes.
Play is their work.
Oh,
That's how
yes.
they learn.
Oh, yes.
And I regret that we've lost some of that, and the push for, and a lot of it it's not locally driven, the requirements, and so I think sometimes we're sort of pushing them through their childhood too. So,
But it is so amazing to see what they're able to do
absolutely.
when they can show you how to use. Oh, Grandma, here. I'll show you
give
how
them
to
the
use your
phone
phone
or give them the iPad,
Here,
'cause they'll
just
show
do
you.
this. Just do this. Okay, very good. Well, so do you have any stories to share about you as now being a woman in education was a little different, wasn't it, for opportunity, than being a woman going into other professional fields?
Probably. I don't think that stigma was there as much being a woman in the teaching field.
Right.
Although I think most administrators were typically men early on. I think that has certainly changed
Right.
and should have.
Right.
The equal opportunity is there now. But I think in other fields, it was more difficult, and in some fields it's still more difficult for a woman to move forward.
But as you shared, and I have to give a shout out for Title IX because I'm always interested in showing the impact of Title IX. From when I went to school and graduated, just before Title IX came into being, our basketball team that I played on played girls' rules.
Half court?
They half court, you could only dribble 2 consecutive dribbles, had to pass off, and so forth. And so,
But now, did you have teams and play against other schools?
we had GAA teams.
Yes, we did too.
But during 2 years, my junior and senior year, the GAA teams got to play other schools.
Ah.
So we played 8 games at Shelby High School, and we were undefeated my senior year with those rules. And at that time, well, I have to tell you that as of this filming today, the Shelby girls basketball team is ranked number 1
Wow.
in Division II in the state of Ohio. So I've been following them. I went back to Shelby to watch one of their games in person, and I'm hoping I'll see them in the state tournament at UD later on in March. They have a game tonight, and they have to just keep
Oh, that's fantastic.
keep focused. But when I see where the girls are, and what I was going to mention is you posted on Facebook that Lebanon High School has a girls wrestling team now.
And that's where I was going too. That would never have happened. Girls certainly were never thought to be wrestlers. And this is the first year for the girls wrestling team. And that's due to Title IX. That would not have happened without that. And this year it was a club sport. Next year it becomes an interscholastic sport, team sport.
Okay, all right.
But now opposite of that, a long time ago, I think when Kyle was in school, they had boys volleyball.
Yes.
Did Kyle play that?
Kyle did not, but several of his friends did, and they went on.
Oh, they were very good.
Yes,
yeah.
They were very good.
So now, but recently, it's only been girls volleyball. Well, starting next year, there will be boys club volleyball, and then the following year it will become a team sport.
Well, that is fair.
So,
I mean, that is totally the way it should be. So that's so good to
equality.
It's so good to see when people are given the opportunity to be the best that they can be.
And something that they want to enjoy.
Yes, then you see it actually happening.
The girls were really successful. We had 3 place at state. So, kudos to them. I think we had 4 that went to state.
Well, I followed wrestling with my boys all through the years, and I was totally convinced that, and when Lori Bolton became one of the first women to referee high school wrestling,
I remember that.
I was totally convinced that girls could do that. And I saw some girls at that time. A few girls wrestled, but the boys were a little. They really didn't know what to think about the girls wrestling. But you could see that if given the opportunity and creating the girls' team, then that was I think that was a good way to approach it.
I do too. Yeah.
Because, well, anyway, I was just happy to see so much achievement, along those lines. Because, of course, now with golf, there's, girls golf and girls tennis. And whereas when I was in high school, it was just boys. And the
boys
bowling
and girls
teams.
bowling.
Yes, and lacrosse.
Yes.
And so on. Of course, track and field. We could go on and on. But the whole idea is that with opportunities given to individuals across the board, that they get a chance to really shine. And that's what you love seeing, don't you?
Want them to pick something that they like to do and be able to do it.
Right.
Without boundaries.
Yes, for sure. So you taught school and then you, well, retired technically, right? When did you retire?
In '08.
Okay.
I'm sorry, '06. Oh my goodness.
In
'06.
Okay, okay. And then when did you run for school board the first time?
'08.
In '08.
That's when I started.
Okay,
So,
okay. So you have served on the school board and been in touch with the school system ever, well,
and when I
ever
did that,
since.
I wanted something to do in retirement. I'd always been in education, and I've always cared about this community. And my whole point in running was I just wanted to give back because Lebanon has been so good to me. And I just wanted to give back to the community and to the schools and our children. Children of this community, they really are our future, and they need the best.
You're just a wonderful example of moving from professional to, elected official, being on the school board. And then I see that you have become or have always been a lifelong learner, as have I. And you brought some examples of some things that you're doing now. Tell us your classes that you've been taking.
Well, first of all, I've always enjoyed arts and crafts and making things. And when I was in high school, if you took academics and band and choir, there weren't enough of
Hours in
blocks
the day,
left
right.
to take any of the arts.
Right.
But I always sort of dabbled in it. Well, within the last year, I've taken some formal classes in art, and had never done anything with oils. So I'd used acrylics and painted cards mostly. And so I said, okay, I'm taking a class. I'm doing something for me. So this was my first oil. He starts you in black and white, and I go to Greg's store down at on Bethany Road.
Okay.
In fact, I start again next Tuesday. So this was my first black and white, and this was the beach we were at Daytona this summer.
Oh, so this is just recent
This one, yeah.
that you just started?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then we had this reminded me of my grandparents' barn. This is not it. It was just a photo of a barn.
Okay.
And learning the techniques to go along with that, the lights and the darks and the perspectives. And then this was one. And again, I have not been to the lighthouse. This was a photo, and then for me to gain more skills. So that's my.
That's your current,
sort of my
passion, right? Right now. Well, it looks.
My other passion is just watching what my grandchildren are involved in. Gabby's playing basketball. Justice did play volleyball. She's in college now.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay. Great. Well, those activities keep you busy as well. I noticed you brought another notebook here. Tell us
Okay.
what's.
Yeah, I did want to share this because
Okay.
Miller Ecological Park. That was originally my great aunt and uncle's farm.
Okay.
Yeah, it was Will and Harriet Miller. Harriet and my grandmother Georgie Banta were both Snooks, and the land there for Miller Park was part of their farm. And right now I'm a trustee on this board. So when my cousin Nancy Meyerholtz, she said, "Well, would you serve as a trustee?" I thought, "Nancy, I can't take on one more thing." And she said, "I just want someone with family that's around here."
Mm-hmm.
Put my name on. Okay. Well, you can't go to it and not get involved. The number of volunteers and people that have such a passion for this park is just amazing. And what they've been able to do and to keep it natural, and the number of families that go there, and the sledding hill was, thank goodness we had snow this winter so they could use it. It's been fantastic. The bird counts
Well, I noticed the Snook Sisters of Warren County. I love the title. And then it says, is there a genealogy in there as well?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
Now, Nancy wrote this. Nancy
Okay.
put it together.
Okay.
There were six sisters. And yeah, in the back, there's a genealogy of each of the sisters. And she's done hours and hours of work putting it together and put a few pictures in with it.
Isn't that?
I'd like for her to come down to the museum and do one of the lunch and learns
Yes.
about it.
Yes. I was just listening to John Zimkus do the lunch and learn this month. It was on the principal of the schools and,
Yes.
and the black school. That was,
The Union School?
yes, here.
Yeah, I
here
was
in
at that,
Lebanon.
at
You
the
were,
luncheon.
you were in the
Mhm.
audience?
Yeah.
Well, I was watching online, and it was so interesting.
I didn't even know it existed. So it was really gone before I went to school over there.
And for you, who have, you would think that you knew all
Would have
this
kno-
history,
yeah.
and here this was news
Absolutely.
to you as well.
Yeah, and it was originally over there by the Pleasant Street School, so
Right.
but it was gone before I went to school there.
It was so timely, and John does such a wonderful,
Oh, I don't know how he remembers all the dates and stuff.
wonderful job. Well, from
He's very
being a
good.
history teacher,
I know.
he's a wealth of information about almost any topic. And if he doesn't know that much about it, he knows who does.
Or
right?
he's going to go find out.
Yes.
And that's what he did with this.
That's
so.
what he said. So we used the pandemic time, the quarantine time, to take lessons, take classes, write books, start thinking about doing maybe new projects. Do you have anything that's upcoming that you'd like to share? Any new things happening? Well, even with the schools, you mentioned a couple new programs that are coming on board in athletics, and then also in the classroom. I just didn't know if there were any new projects ahead or not. Do you think there'd be a part 2 to this book? Sometimes,
I don't know. I wish I'd have gone back now and taken the time. I might go back and redo it and add the pictures and maybe a genealogy in it and give it a little more detail.
there are times when, because they still send different questions, and I say, oh gosh, I would like to answer that question. Well, maybe I should start a volume 2.
I doubt if I'll do that.
But
I'd rather paint.
well, there you go. Well, now painting has been on my bucket list. So now that I know where you go, and I've been talking to a couple other.
What I would really like to do with this, my goal, there's so much wonderful architecture in Lebanon, and not necessarily like the Golden Lamb and these the Glendower that are very recognizable, but just homes on Mulberry Street, homes on Orchard Avenue. That the architecture is just incredible, and I'd like to get some photos of those and just take time and put it to oils or put it to charcoal. That's where I want to go with this. Some Lebanon architecture.
Very good. Well, Warren County is a wealth of history, isn't it?
Definitely.
And when we encourage our audience today on Feeling Good to reach out to Esther, you wouldn't mind if people reached out to you?
Not at all.
Or reached out to us here on Feeling Good. If you're interested in wanting to know what's out there, what's available, what classes are available, which reminds me, the Miami University Institute of Learning and Retirement, I've become very involved with, and especially at the VOA over in Westchester. Our classes for spring are starting, registration is starting March 1st, and the classes will run the month of April. And if you take them online, if you take them, some of them will be hybrid, and some will be in person. And there are many classes offered in Oxford on the main campus, in Hamilton, in Monroe, at Mount Pleasant, and also at the VOA campus. And so that's what I'm looking forward to next, because those classes always kind of take you to even more interesting places, and you want to learn even more about
Lifelong learner.
those lifelong learners. So we hope that you are feeling good, and we appreciate Esther Larson being our guest today. Thank you so much. That we've caught up a little bit. There's so much more we could discuss. Maybe we'll have a part 2.
It's been delightful. I've loved spending the time with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. If you're watching Feelin' Good on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. We hope you're feeling good. Bye for now.